Welcome to the Busy Fit podcast. Today we're going to go over top trends and recap of what happened in 2024. The first is there has been a lot of media put out about debunking whether or not 10,000 steps per day is beneficial for your health, if that number needs to be lower. So we've compiled a few different reports here. We're going to give you kind of the rundown. A new review that says that all you need is 3,143 steps in a day to protect against premature death, and the optimal daily steps falling between 7,000 and 9,000. Another one shows here that there's a lack of evidence supporting that 10,000 steps in a day is valuable for your health. We'll dive a little bit deeper here, and they've found that benefits stop or plateau at 7,500 steps per day, and that you can get as the same amount of benefit from as little as 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day. I'm going to try not to go too hard in on that, but let's be honest, do we really want to be promoting people moving less? We're already in a moment in society where we struggle to move, even 2,000 to 3,000 steps in a day to get in exercise. We're eating more processed foods than ever, and here we are promoting even less movement. I struggle to see the benefit or value in promoting less, because when the goal was 10,000 steps per day, we had people thinking that 6,000 steps per day was acceptable because it was close. Now that we move the goal to 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day, people are going to stop at 2,000 steps per day because it's close. I don't think we need to be lowering that bar as a society. We need to be raising the expectation of what the minimum should be. Now, you can obviously form your own opinion on whether or not you feel that, 3,000 to 4,000 should be the marker, or if it should be 10,000. But personally, I don't see the benefit in lowering that. There's an incredible amount of benefit to getting in, 10,000 steps in a day. Even if that's the only activity you get in, 10,000 steps is going to get some sort of stimulus from it, where if you're only getting in 3,000 to 4,000 and you're eating poorly and you're being sedentary the rest of the time, that's not going to be good for your health. And I don't think that's something that any media outlet, any researcher should be promoting or advocating for. The next one, and this topic definitely could get me in trouble for maybe putting out a stance one way or the other. So I'm going to do my best to not push back too far against the weight loss drugs or for the weight loss drugs, but the impact of GLP-1 weight loss drugs on the fitness industry and on people as a society, and the trends that we're seeing. One of the most trending parts of weight loss drugs for 2024 was families doing it together, paying for the entire family to get on Ozempic or get on a GLP-1 drug to be able to lose weight. And it's their form of camaraderie because they're all doing it together. And you're seeing reels of people sitting there at dinner and none of them are actually finishing their meal because they're all on Ozempic, but they're doing it together as if that's creating a family bond. Why not, instead of having everyone take GLP-1, why don't we all just go exercise for 30 minutes together? Or maybe instead of just taking an easy way out with a weight loss drug, why not eat a little healthier? Like, why are we not promoting that as a family? Instead, we're saying, oh, we're all going to do this drug together that's going to cause all of these symptoms. And, to be honest, it's a little bit of an easy way out. Now, I'm sure there's a time and place for these, and obviously they're here to stay in the fitness industry. And it's one of those things that whether you like it or not, you're going to have to accept the fact that that's something that we have now. But it doesn't mean that that should be our first source or first step in trying to improve our health. We should be spending more time trying to promote us being more active, eating healthier, doing the right stuff for our health, because the reality is you're paying money out to do something that's going to do the hard work for you that you're going to have to learn anyway. So you might as well just do it the right way from the beginning. The rise of wearable technology in personal health monitoring. And this is one I've been on the fence on one way or the other for several years as we've seen this kind of pop up. And I was an early adopter to Whoop. I loved it, when I got to know them as a company and spend time with their product. And I wore it religiously for 3 years. Obviously, Oura Ring's come into space. Fitbit's been really big. Garmin's really big. Amazon even has a wearable now. 8 Sleep has a bed that's, tracks all of your metrics for you. They're definitely great gadgets to have and they can play their role, but they're not going to do the work for you. A wearable is not going to do the work for you, and it may tell you to move more and maybe how to sleep a little bit better, but it shouldn't be the first step in trying to improve your health. Just being aware. I think most of us are already aware of what we need to do to improve our health or where to start if we're just starting with a baby step. And that can definitely, wearable can help move the needle, but why not invest in working with a coach? Like, get the actual guidance and support you need in every area versus just relying on a wearable that's going to tell you whether or not you need to get more steps in a day or whether or not you slept well. That's not really valuable data for someone that's starting out in their journey. Now, as you get further into it, it can be incredibly valuable. So once you've established the right sustainable habits and approach to nutrition that fits into your life and you enjoy, so you don't feel like you're dieting, sure, at that point, a wearable can be a useful thing to do, but it shouldn't be the first option that you choose when you're trying to find a way to focus on your health. One last caveat on the wearable side, my wife wears an Oura ring. We have tons of clients that we have wearing Oura rings for tracking their health because we've already worked through the basics with them. And my wife and I have already worked through the basics, and we have an 8 sleep. So we track our sleep, we do temperature monitoring, all of that stuff. But it's because we've done all of the easy stuff. We've built the right habits in place where it's like, okay, what's the next thing we can do? It's always about finding the low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing that you can focus on first to improve your health versus just changing everything or making it really strict. So wearable doesn't have to be your first option. There's a lot of easy first options that make a massive difference that you can do well before diving into that side of things. This one I love. This one I absolutely love, and I cannot hold my opinion back on that. But fitness achievements as resume enhancements. I've always believed that if you're an athlete or you've done something fitness related, it absolutely should be on your resume because you've done something that most of the population can't do. It shows that you have dedication, consistency, good habits in place. You're resilient. You can stick to something for a long period of time, and you can have some delayed gratification, which is needed in most work settings. I've talked about this a lot where former college athletes and ex-college athletes are the preferred hire of Fortune 500 companies because they know the dedication, work ethic, grind that ex-college athletes can put in, and they're used to having a full-time student load of being a full-time athlete and excelling at both. So when you take away being an athlete and they just have to focus on their career, they're going to achieve above and beyond what someone that's not in that realm can do because they have an experience that most people don't have. They have a more resilient background to come from. So absolutely, on your resume, if you've done something, if you've run a marathon, you've competed at a high level, in sports or, any other, high achieving area, like that should absolutely be on your resume because a employer absolutely wants to hire someone that is that resilient and can work that hard and knows how to overcome small obstacles and has shown those consistency of habits to achieve something at that level in athletics. So I love that trend. I think that's a great thing. I think fitness achievement should be a huge part of resumes moving forward, and I hope that continues. Okay, this next one, I'm not going to dive too far into because I don't have a strong opinion on it. And also I'm not well versed in the area. So you can do your own research. I'm going to discuss what is currently out there and you can choose what you feel is the best thing to believe. And that's the popularity and risk of raw milk consumption. It's something that has become more popular. A lot of doctors continue to, kind of warn against it. And so I'm not going to take a hard take one way or the other. Now, there's tons of what some people are saying is misinformation. Some people are saying is more reliable information. But you're seeing, especially on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, that there's more and more influencers promoting raw milk. And regardless of where you stand on that specifically, you shouldn't be taking some random personal trainer or some random online fitness coach or influencer as your source for health information. You should be focusing on actually getting it from reputable sources. And someone who just posts on social media and has a lot of followers does not warrant that someone is a expert in the health industry. Now, just to explain a little bit about what raw milk actually is, it's unpasteurized milk. Hasn't gone through that pasteurization process. They heat milk and dairy to a certain temperature to eliminate any harmful pathogens that can be transmitted from animals. Pasteurization does not affect the nutritional value or the taste of the milk. However, Several board certified gastroenterologists also point out that pasteurization has been used for over 100 years and helps reduce the risk of transmitting infections from animal sources to humans. Before the pasteurization process, thousands of people died every year from infections due to ingesting unpasteurized milk. So is raw milk better for you than pasteurized milk? The people that promote raw milk will say it's absolutely a better option, but also there's not a lot of data to back those claims. Remembering that pasteurized milk contain fortified vitamins, minerals, omegas that raw milk does not, because it's not added into the process. So what are some of the risks associated with drinking raw milk? Raw milk has been associated with multiple infections, some of which have been connected to serious health issues: Brucella, Listeria, Salmonella, E. coli. Again, our job is not to tell you what to believe one way or the other. Our job is to provide you the information, allow you to, I don't think it's a bad thing that this has popped up as something that is being talked about. But there's so many other things we should be focusing on first. We should be debating whether or not products that we consume every single day are healthy or beneficial for us. And we should be having the conversation around what is a beneficial thing for you to do and what's not a beneficial thing for you to do, because our food supply is not healthy to begin with. If you go down the middle aisles of the grocery store, almost everything is processed. Almost everything has food additives or food color dyes and things that aren't helpful to our health. And most of that sugar, which, is going to cause all kinds of issues from a, glucose perspective and insulin and that whole side of things. And we've talked about that before on previous podcasts, but we should be having conversations around our food supply, whether it should be decided or promoted by an influencer, whether it's good or bad to do something, probably not. And that's something to look for when you're following someone or you're reviewing social media posts. Are they a hard advocate for some of these trends one way or the other? And that may be a cue to you that it may not be someone that's worth following or someone that's worth listening to for your health information. Speaking of trends in the health industry, a bigger trend is people going to Instagram or TikTok for their health information. Now, people that are reputable in the field or people that have spent the time looking at peer-reviewed research and making sure that they actually are providing proper health information and not just kind of making a general claim, have done a great job putting out valuable health information through these outlets. But influencers, and you see this consistently on a daily basis, are promoting things one way or the other, whether or not they're valuable or beneficial, and saying, again, we're dating back to the raw milk thing, or meat only diet, or intermittent fasting, or keto, or promoting a specific way of eating, and even things that you can do that are like health hacks. The reality is that most of those things aren't backed by science, and whether someone's taking a hard stance one way or the other is probably a sign that they're not someone that you should be taking information from, because one, every single person's different, and what's going to be the most beneficial process for them is going to be very different than someone else. And also, if they're promoting something that is controversial and there's not proven data one way or the other, they should be presenting the information, allowing you to evaluate the facts and make a decision for yourself, not necessarily saying that one diet or one way of eating or this thing's healthy or this is not, unless there's actual data and science to back it up, and not just one of those claims. And also not relying on like the claim, oh, it worked for me, because, oh, it worked for me. That's impossible to just break down one variable of all the things that impact you on a daily basis. Sure, the raw milk is the reason that you're healthy. That's probably not the case. It's probably the 23 other hours in the day where you're doing things that are, promoting your health or doing the right stuff. And that may be something that's a part of it. But it could be a part of it in a positive way or a negative way. And so be very careful when you're watching a post and you see someone take a hard stance on one of those controversial subjects, because unless it's backed by science, it's probably not a reputable source or something you want to look at. Now, a bigger trend, you're seeing more and more posts about people that are in their 70s and 80s and 90s and doing incredible things like running marathons and still being active and still being able to live for themselves and all these things. And this is what we need to see more of. But we also need to see more of how they got there. It's very easy to think about the joy you have in a day or the things that take place throughout the day and forget about the fact that you have to prioritize your health, because it's hard to kind of think long term like that, but the decisions you make when you're 20, 30, and 40 are going to absolutely impact what happens in your life from 50, 60, 70, 80, not just whether you're around for it, but also the joy you're going to get out of every single day and the impact you're going to be able to have on your family, friends, kids, grandkids, and how they're going to also have to take care of you down the line as well. So it's important to set those habits now because that stuff affects you 20, 30, 40 years from now. Okay, I'm not sure if this is actually a trend in itself, but it's something that you're seeing discussed more and more often. That's habits around holidays and different times of the year and what's being promoted. And I did a lot of research into like what's being published by media outlets, what's being put out there, whether it's beneficial or not, and the takes that are being provided. And it's great that there's more information around holidays and things that you should do to promote your health during that time and to stay on track when things get crazy, but also taking everything with a grain of salt. I'm going to give a quick example of the 4 biggest diet mistakes people make during the holidays. And this is promoted by the New York Post. And again, I don't want to get on here and, bash anyone else, but the things that stick out to me is, like I agree entirely. They talk about like, the food guilt yo-yo, feeling like you can enjoy yourself one day and then cut out stuff the next. And then as opposed to having a plan in place where it's, I can enjoy the meal that I like and it's going to still be on track for the rest of my goals and not having to feel guilt around that, but being able to truly enjoy the holidays. I agree with that. And I think that's a great take. Now, here's where we get a little bit dicey with things and it's focusing on what to ditch from your diet. It talks about how it's like, you shouldn't be thinking about what you have to cut out or the things that you shouldn't have to consume in the day. And that's a great take. That's something that's valuable and thinking about more about what you can add throughout the day. Now, do I think there's some stuff that we should cut out? 100%. There's, additive sugars, there's alcohol, smoking, obviously any sort of drug or anything like that. But those things aren't going to be beneficial for your health, your wallet, your life, your family, friends, anything at all. Those things, like, sure, let's think about potentially cutting those out. Where I get a little bit worried is, and I'm going to quote this here. It says, for example, can you sneak extra carrots into a holiday casserole? Add a scoop of nut butter for protein into your recipe. Okay, completely agree. You can sneak some vegetables into some holiday recipes and get those vegetables in another way. But now we're saying we're going to add a scoop of nut butter for protein into cookies. We're taking a high calorie, high sugar item. And instead of thinking like, okay, well, let's maybe reduce the sugar in this or maybe just eat this in moderation, we're going to add more calories to it. And on top of that, we're going to say that a nut butter is a source of protein and there is a little bit of protein in it, but it's also incredibly calorically dense and has a high fat content. So if we're relying on that, we're kind of just adding fuel to the fire, and a cookie that may be 200 calories is all of a sudden going to be 350 calories. And this is what I get worried about is we're not necessarily looking at like what we're actually saying when we're putting something out there. We're just putting out something we feel like is general claim. And if we look at a scoop of or a tablespoon of peanut butter, a tablespoon of peanut butter has 94 calories, 8 grams of fat, 3 grams of carb, 4 grams of protein. So if we think about it like that, just that one scoop, and that's probably what's going to go into one cookie, we're adding 100 calories like it's nothing. And that's where, that general health information, there are some ways to add nut butters and have it be a protein source in the right context. But we really need to think about the information we're putting out there because people will follow these rules and think it's something that they should stick to. And they're going to go all out with it. It's like if you promote, a sugar-free candy, that's something that if you say, hey, this is good, you can have this, people are going to have a lot of it. And they're not just going to be like, oh, well, that's a substitute. They're going to think something they can have every single night. And you have to think about that when you provide information on health trends. Like, what is the actual everyday person that's listening going to take with that and where are they going to run with it? And that's what you have to kind of discuss before you put out those broader claims. And not necessarily least is the trend towards recognizing the effects that exercise actually have and how active you need to be. You are seeing it be more acceptable in the workplace to have a walking treadmill and to have a standing desk and to take a break to maybe promote your mental and physical health. And that's a great thing. That should continue to be promoted. And that's something we're going to continue to be advocates for. If you prioritize your health, and your life is going to fall into place and be in a better situation if your health is in a good place. And not to say you can't have all those things without your health, but it's kind of a empty wealth, right? If you have everything going well for you, but your health is in a good place, it has to be something that's promoted on a daily basis. Now, that's all for our episode recapping 2024. In another episode, we'll go to what we feel like are the most important things for you to focus on over 2025. And we also have some important things in announcements coming out over the next couple of episodes. So make sure you stay tuned for exciting information and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.